Chit Chat a-hole.
Hello and welcome to Intoxicated Masculinity, where we talk about drinking culture, pop culture, politics, and anything else that comes up. Joining me as always is Brandon.
Hello, my people.
Cale.
Hi.
And we have fired Jim and buried him in a shallow grave. But he'll be back next week. So we don't really have any specific topics today. This is kind of we've done a couple of these episodes in the past. They've just got a couple things, little topics covered here and there. But before we cover chit chat, let's cover what's in our glass. Brandon, what are you having?
Today I am having straight bourbon whiskey from Pittsburgh.
What's the name of the distillery?
It's just the Pittsburgh Distilling Company.
Aptly named.
Pittsburgh. Yeah. It's pretty good. You can tell it's a little young, but it's decent bourbon.
And it is actually made there. Sometimes we'll just do a talking episode about bourbons and stuff just to kind of talk about what all these things mean. But they actually did make that whiskey. They did distill it. They bottled it. They did everything. So it's not, it was not purchased from another person. Cale, what are you having?
Yeah.
I am having Spring Creek Cabernet Sauvignon.
What a fancy bitch.
I got it at DG for $3.75.
I take it back.
So $2 Chuck. I am celebrating the last of my orgeat syrup and the last of my rum agricole. I'll refill both of those eventually, or at some point in the near future. But I am celebrating with a Mai Tai, which is a very familiar cocktail in this household.
I went to Flicks for watching Doctor Strange, and they had this mango peach jalapeno beer. That wasn't bad, but I wouldn't do 16 ounces of it again. But it wasn't bad.
That sounds a little muddled.
It was definitely more like a cocktail than a beer.
I don't know. I have a hard time ordering cocktails out, to be honest, because a lot of times people will. We in this country love sweetness, and so people will just drown these things in sour mix, which just don't use sour mix. Come on. There's no reason for sour mix to exist. You got a lime, you get simple syrup. You don't need to have a bunch of high fructose corn syrup in a bottle that you put in your drinks. Like, we don't have high fructose corn syrup on a diet as it is. Definitely don't need to be drinking it. Okay, so I got a few topics I want to talk about, but first, Brandon wasn't able to join us when we were talking about the Rick and Morty and Community, so I thought we'd do kind of a little mini-so, just get his thoughts, and I'll tell him why all his thoughts are wrong. So when we last week you talked about it, and I think all of us kind of agreed we like Community better. Jim, I think, like some of the individual episodes of Rick and Morty quite a bit more than some of the individual episodes of Community. I don't know, what were your thoughts going through those? Did you get all the way through Community?
No, I didn't have the chance to get through it. I made it through most of the way through fifth season, but I didn't get a chance to start sixth. There's so many episodes I can see, liking one episode of Rick and Morty over a different episode of Community or something. That doesn't seem unreasonable, but my first introduction to Rick and Morty was on the Very Bad Wizards podcast. And I have since had some issues with them and their take on some things. And Rick and Morty's one of them. They really like it. They are both, one is a philosopher, and he really likes it. I think it's a little, it was hard to get through. Like, the mouth noises and the constant burping alone was just a thing that I just could not make it through. I liked it more at first, but I think that was more, I had heard their take on it. So I kind of went into it viewing it from their version of it and liked it more from that. But I think on rewatch, just on my own, without that frame of reference.
I definitely think that Rick and Morty, or at least the fans of Rick and Morty, that's one of the other things we talked about. The fan base of Rick and Morty is definitely kind of a thing. They think that Rick and Morty is a lot smarter than it really is. Like, I think they believe it to be this really profound, like deeply thoughtful stuff. And it's like, I mean, a lot of stuff they talk about is just it's been there in sci-fi for a million years, and they're just talking about it in a maybe slightly different way.
Yeah.
And Rick's a real bad guy.
Well, in Community, it's I have found more and more that I am not a big fan of the white male protagonist in a lot of sitcoms, and McHale is no exception to that. I could do without him in a lot of it, and just the talk about a tryhard. The amount of times that he acts like he doesn't care. It's such a show. It's like, how does nobody just immediately see through this?
But I think I think that's part of the point of his character. He is always trying. I mean, like one of my favorite lines is he's like, "Would a hipster walk around in $600 jeans?" And it's like, yes, that's exactly what.
Of course they would.
And it's, I don't know, I like it a lot. I think it's I just think they handle things. It's just more interesting to me. But what were some standout either Rick and Morty or Community episodes that you really like a lot?
I don't know. The Rick and Morty ones I have trouble even remembering, save for the ones I just rewatched. I'm drawing a blank mostly on those. I remember the one where the dog takes over, because that's like within the first like 5 episodes, and I saw that much of them on the rewatch. Community does have a lot of good episodes. I think they're more in the beginning seasons. I think I skipped half of the 4th season. I think you said that's when Harmon went away.
Yeah, they later, well, they referred to it a few times in season 5 as the gas leak year.
Yeah. That whole season was very formulaic, and I felt like I was TGIFing it about halfway through, and it's just like, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, season 4 is not my favorite. I still do like I like the doctor, or what is it? They call him Dr. Space Time or whatever.
Yeah.
I like the convention. I thought that was kind of fun.
The guy that befriends Abed in there is on the Great British Baking Show. So that's that's where I've seen him.
Well, he was also in Doctor Who.
Yeah.
Some of the later stuff, which I haven't watched a lot of. I think I've watched most of the Doctor Who. I haven't watched the latest season, the latest Jodie Whittaker season, but I think this is her 3rd and last. I could be wrong. I think it's her 3rd and last season, and they've cast a new Doctor Who. The new Doctor Who is cast by a black actor, and the Community took it about like you'd expect.
Why is that a problem? It's just a thing his body would change into. I mean, it's just.
I don't have a clue. Like when the Master was recast as a female actress, I thought she was actually really like kind of breathing new life into the character.
Yeah, she was good.
Because the Master is kind of, I mean, I remember the original one. I can't remember his name. The one from the John Pertwee era is kind of the Master that I remember. And then the one who was the Master during the Tennant term, I thought he was good and I enjoyed him, but I also kind of felt like he wasn't particularly. It wasn't the most interesting version of the Master, and he wasn't really distinguished in any way.
Is he meant to be what's the name, Moriarty?
Yeah, basically. And honestly, they had another one that was cast in the Jodie Whittaker era. They cast another person as the Master, and he is kind of a famous actor, I think, and I can't remember his name, but I'll look it up. But again, just kind of he just kind of feels like, hi, I'm the villain, and so I'm going to villain at you. Actually, the female Master might be the best one in the recent past, because I don't know if I like her better than Delgado, who was the actor under John Pertwee's doctorship. But yeah, Cale, I know you have a few internet connection problems. Did you have any other kind of closing thoughts on the Rick and Morty in the Community?
Oh, I was just gonna tell Brandon that it ties into the video he sent me earlier, talking about.
Now we'll never know.
I'm gonna assume you meant the FD signifier video. Pretty good one on Edgelords, if you ever get a chance.
I actually just started it, and I got on to kind of doing something else, but yeah, I'll check that out. Sorry, just one moment.
Just a shout out, at least one left to say. FD Signifier is really good. He's got some very good in-depth deep dives into like Mike Tyson and growing up black in America and all this. He did not finish his PhD, but he was working on it there for a while. You can tell he's a very smart guy.
He talked about nihilism and the danger of nihilism.
That was part of it. I mean, it was part of it was like an hour and a half long.
Oh, it was I'm gonna mispronounce this guy's name, and I apologize. Sasha Dawan. And he was in the Iron Fist TV show, which wasn't a very good TV show. I think he did the most he could with it, but and I think he's good as the master. I just don't think he was sort of like distinguished himself in any particular way. Yeah. I don't know. As far as the Rick and Morty episodes, I like the one about the battery. The Rick's Must Be Crazy was pretty good. There was I don't know. Yeah, the Rick and Morty, they don't stick with me very much either. As far as the community episodes, I can name a million of those, and I did when we did the episode. Did you have any other final thoughts on that before we move on to something else?
No, I'm sorry I missed the episode. I did have some thoughts at the time, but now a week removed, I haven't thought about it nearly as much.
All right, so Brandon, you just watched Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness.
Yes.
Did you find it to be sufficiently mad?
I thought it was entertaining. As far as the trippiness part of it, the madness part of it, I don't know. There's times where you can go back to you can point to a movie that kind of set the standard for how to do a certain thing. And I think here you can probably go back to like Inception as kind of the standard for how you show trippiness through a multiverse or something. It was dreams and Inception, but I think you can definitely point to its visual influence on a lot of modern movies, the new Doctor Strange included.
First of all, we're going to talk spoilery about it because I think that anybody who is interested in this stuff has already seen it. So I'll put up a spoiler alert below. Well, I better ask Cale, make sure. Well, we'll see if it comes back in or not. We'll
might not hear of it.
We'll put in a spoiler alert, but yeah, I don't know if I'm going to get too deep into it because I don't know if there's that many spoilers that haven't already been revealed. But I have kind of a problem with the later Marvel movies, the last phase or so, where it really seems like they have solidified kind of their formula for making movies, and all the movies kind of start to run together and look the same. And I don't feel like they distinguish themselves from each other. And so I don't know. I didn't dislike the new Doctor Strange, but I definitely didn't feel strongly about it in any way.
My one big problem with it really was Wanda herself. She ends up being the big bad for the movie. Wanda Maximoff does. And we just got through with WandaVision and really sympathizing with the character and wanting her to change around, to realize that she needs some sort of help and not just her magic power, and then it just goes the other way. And it's such a cliche that a mom after her kids is the thing that just drives her crazy and she can't see a reason at all. They had a real opportunity to make a very nuanced, subtle, in-depth bad guy, and they decided not to take it.
So I said almost exactly the same thing you're saying on twitter.com. And many people disagreed with me, but I think that's dead on. Their argument, just to put the argument of people that disagree with that out there, they say that in the end of WandaVision, it shows her reading the Darkhold. And so that is sort of the sign that she has turned evil. I didn't read that scene that way at all myself. I thought that she was exploring some dark places, but she sort of goes from 0 to I'm just going to slaughter everybody in my way in like very, very quickly. Because I mean, at the end of WandaVision, she feels remorse, like for the things she did in that town. She feels remorseful.
Yeah, she has a character arc that comes out with her starting to see the light. And there isn't a particular moment in Doctor Strange where that gets clouded again. She just.
Well, and on top of that, I think that, like, if you take the movie's logic that basically she read the Darkhold and she turned evil, which is like the worst character motivation on earth. There's like, girl read book, book make girl evil. It's just like, I mean, take out
I don't know, that happens a lot.
But take out the sort of political implications or character or stuff. It's just a bad story. Like, it's not a good story to say, well, this person did this thing and now they're evil. And it's like, well, that's a shitty way to write. That's like incredibly lazy writing.
Well, it's inside the box thinking too. You can put her in this box as she read a thing and it turned her evil. It's like there's no character to it. She's just, she did a thing and that was the wrong thing to do. She chose poorly and melted.
Well, what it makes me think of, and Cale, by the way, I should ask Cale, have you seen the new Doctor Strange movie yet?
No.
Oh, well, we spoiled some of it. Sorry.
Okay. It's okay. I haven't seen the multi Spider-Man movie. I haven't seen Morbius. I haven't seen Doctor Strange.
You can skip the Morbius
seen...
movie, Cale. You're not missing anything there.
I have seen WandaVision.
Yeah, well, and we watched WandaVision down in Kentucky a while ago. Yeah, you get this sort of good writing and a character development, and then Multiverse is just kind of like, and now she's evil because reasons, and it's like it's narratively unsatisfying.
And I get that a movie doesn't have the same kind of time to draw out subtle character development as a TV show does, but that doesn't mean you have to just throw all that out the window and go with the
studio is sacrificing some of that in the name of continuity to keep the movies rolling, to keep the cash flowing.
Well, I mean,
but
probably
there's no continuity even, really. We're not introduced to Thanos' replacement yet. I mean,
now, to be fair, in the movie, we don't. Wanda, like, I think in the movie they pretty much imply that she's killed off, but obviously it's Marvel, so death is never assured. And so maybe we'll get a second season of Wanda, a second season about Wanda Maximoff. But it still doesn't change the fact that I found her story in this movie very, very narratively unsatisfying. It's just, it doesn't feel like that's what should happen.
It occurred to me that they had to do something with the current iteration of Wanda because any new bad sort of going all the way up to, one of the Celestials or something is not going to be able to stand up to her anymore.
Right.
And I suppose they're probably going to bring in, the alternate reality one because she has her kids, so she's not crazy or whatever. Kids make crazy.
And the other thing to remember is we are, and I don't see a lot of people talking about this, we are very slowly getting an introduction to all the young Avengers, because Wanda's two kids are Wiccan and Speed, and in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier, we get Patriot, who's another member. Kang the Conqueror, his younger self, is the Iron Lad. So we sort of have been, and then Kate Bishop is in the new Hawkeye show. So we're slowly getting these little introduction to the young Avengers, and I'm assuming they're probably going to pull that together at some point. So I don't think that we've probably seen the last of Wanda Maximoff. It's just, I don't know. And then on top of that, and the first movie that I thought they did this with to negative effect was Thor, the third Thor movie. I believe that's the actual title.
I haven't seen that either.
It's just like, there's this thing where it's like, somebody has told these filmmakers that we need a laugh every 25 seconds. Like, we can't go 25 seconds without a laugh. And I think that weakens the movies, and it makes them very watery, where, in Thor, the third Thor, two of the Warriors 3 get killed, and it's done, I mean, without even a second thought. I mean, they're just kind of like, okay, they killed those. And these are characters that if you were fans of the Thor movies, those are pretty important characters. I mean, they've been with Thor this whole time. Yes, Cale. I mean Thor Ragnarok. Thor Ragnarok, colon the third Thor.
I didn't look up anything about the movie before I went and saw it. So on a side note, I was surprised to see both Xavier and Reed Richards in it.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, I wasn't surprised by Xavier. That's actually spoiled in the trailer, which I think was kind of a dumb idea. But Reed Richards popping up was cool, and it's John Krasinski, and John Krasinski is the one that they've been the fans have been sort of clamoring for to have him play Reed Richards, and so he got to play Reed Richards for a minute and a half or whatever it was. We get Sharon Carter as Captain. I don't know what her superhero name in that was, Captain Britain, except Captain Britain's actually a different character. And she popped up in the Marvel What If cartoon show. I don't know. It just didn't. I feel like the film was perfectly serviceable, but didn't really stand out in any particular way.
I thought it wasn't all negative. There was definitely, I thought the part where he inhabits the dead version of him, I thought was kind of neat. I thought it was visually appealing. It was
very Sam Raimi.
Yeah, and of course Bruce Campbell at the end. It's over.
Yeah, it was fine. I don't know. I don't care. So what was the last Marvel movie you saw then, Cale?
Oh, let's see. Oh, Shang-Chi.
Oh, okay.
See, I haven't seen that one.
Shang-Chi, it felt so. There's a series of these Marvel solo movies, Shang-Chi and Captain Marvel and
I saw Black Widow too.
Well, Black Widow, same way. Where I don't dislike them. I think Shang-Chi was probably the better of those solo movies, but they're just not. They don't seem to have a ton of personality. Like they just kind of like feel like they're all stamped out on the same assembly line, kind of. And actually, the one that was not good, The Eternals, which is not good. It is not a good movie. You cannot say that about it. But it's Chloe Zhao who won Best Director for Nomadland a couple of years ago. It is at least kind of different. I don't know if it's different in a good way, but it's different. They tried something different. So I don't know, it's something, I guess. And then I think the most notable comic book movie I've seen lately was The Suicide Squad, the James Gunn one, which I thought was bad. But it's bad in some really interesting and kind of fun ways. I don't think the movie works in the end. I think it kind of falls apart in a bunch of ways.
And somehow made John Cena even more famous.
And I'll tell you what, the Peacemaker TV show is kind of fun. I kind of liked it. It's I don't know.
I gotta say, along the DC lines,
it's John Cena.
It's often the case that the cartoon versions are better. I mean, the Justice League cartoon is amazing. Batman, the animated series, is incredible. Check out Harley Quinn on HBO.
Yeah, the Harley Quinn show on HBO is great. I think the Batman was very good. That's probably my favorite Batman movie in a long time. Maybe my favorite Batman movie ever.
But the Batman animated series is really fantastic.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And actually, some of the DC stuff has been decent. Like the Shazam movie is not perfect, but I think it's a lot of fun. It's got a lot of heart to it, and it kind of hits the right spot, I think, for a lot of people. The Birds of Prey was pretty good. So DC definitely can make good movies. I think DC's big problem is actually stringing two good movies together that actually connect. I mean, I watched the Wonder Woman 84 when that came out, and that movie was, I mean, quite honestly, to the point where I don't know how they released it. Like, it was bad to the point of did this go through the full editing process? Like, did people watch this before they put it out or what? Like that, because that movie was absolutely awful. We were watching it at home and Vanessa fell asleep at 25 minutes into the movie, woke up and was like, oh my God, this thing's still going on. It was kind of a nightmare. And it's funny because the first Wonder Woman movie, aside from the third act, I think actually was pretty decent. I mean, I think of the new superheroes right now, Wonder Woman's maybe got the best like little theme song thing, which I'm not going to do now with my mouse because it'll sound ridiculous. But yeah, I don't know what superhero movies have you guys really liked or not liked just in the last little bit? We're going to do a superhero movies, a full episode on this, just kind of like just in the last like couple few years. Have you watched that you liked and didn't like?
Maybe I'm odd man out here, but I did like the Black Widow movie.
I didn't dislike it. I just thought it was kind of generic.
The parallels for the certain I don't know the actor's name, but the guy in the Russian prison, the parallels to the new Stranger Things and what he is. I mean, they could have just filmed it at the same time.
Yeah, I know. The Red Guardian, I think first appeared in the Avengers. I have to double check that, but I think he first appeared in the Avengers. I don't know. The problem I have with the Black Widow is it just feels like one of those things like if you have like the Marvel movie checklist, you're watching Black Widow, you'd be like, okay, there's like the humorous best friend. There's the problem in Act 2. There's the twist in this. And it's just like, it's like Scarlett Johansson, I think is pretty good in that role. I think, probably one of the better cast Avengers, but the movie just comes off as just kind of like, it's just like this thing, then this thing, then this thing, then the movie ends.
But I think that if you didn't have any of the background, that had seen other Marvel movies, if you were just take Black Widow as a standalone thing, I think, like I said, I think it was pretty good, and I think she played it really well. She's an excellent female action hero.
Yeah, definitely. I think, I think as far as the Marvel solo movies, I think Captain Marvel was probably the most generic. Like that movie, and I love that character so much. And I think the movie was serviceable, but like you watch that movie and it is just checklist filmmaking. It is just so
again, I like Brie Larson in it.
Yeah, I don't mind her in it. Although they didn't give her a hell of a lot to do. Like it is just kind of like her personality is I'm tough. Well, being tough isn't a personality. That's one character.
It's a 90s movie.
It's what?
It's a 90s movie.
Well, and it takes place in the 90s, so I don't know. It's just very, very like I said, checklist filmmaking. Do this thing, then do this thing. Did you finally see the Batman yet?
Yeah.
What was your opinion on that one?
I liked most of it. My major problem was, I don't know why people do this. It was so fucking physically dark. It was like,
well, Brandon, he is Batman.
I know, but large parts of the movie are just redacted. I don't know what happened. It just, I had to like go stare at the sun to shove the idea of light back into my brain before it escaped.
And I think the third act is a little weak. The third act does not stand up to the rest of the movie, I don't think.
Well, I don't know. That might be the better part, because there he starts to come to terms with this idea that he can't just punch his way to victory.
No. I like Bruce Wayne. I'm just saying like the action and like kind of how it happens. I thought the final fight scene was a little weak, but I like the fact that it's a character arc. I mean, that's one of the things that I think is it's impressive that we've never had a Batman movie where Batman has any character arc whatsoever. And I've had some people say he has a character arc in Batman Begins. So he doesn't really have a character arc. He's like not tough and then he's tough. But that's not a character arc.
Well, and I'm a big fan of the whole detective thing that they played on really well in the animated series.
And the other thing
they finally did do that here.
The other thing I liked a lot about that movie is the idea that Bruce Wayne would get better, would get good at being Batman before he got good at being Bruce Wayne. And what you see in the movie is he's a bad Bruce Wayne. And I'm not saying Robert Pattinson isn't playing him correctly. I'm saying the character is just not good at being Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
Because he's so focused on being this avenging spirit and all this stuff. And the idea of sort of maintaining his cover as, billionaire playboy philanthropist is definitely a second or maybe third or fourth thought for him. And so I think, presumably they're going to do a sequel to this one. It'll be interesting to see him sort of learning to be Bruce Wayne, since he now kind of knows how to be Batman.
Along that same lines. Sorry, Cale.
Go ahead, Cale.
I'll say the video that Brandon's here talked about that, about the way that Bruce Wayne as Batman decides to handle addressing crime, as opposed to going through channels that are already in society. He chooses to take things into his own hands and go out and be a vigilante.
Well, I think by
And he's
the
a
end of
billion.
the Batman, he at least he understands that to some degree. Because I think the Batman that he's playing at the beginning of the movie very much is he's out there for vengeance. And that was one of the things you see in the trailer where Batman, the first time he talks to criminals is like, I'm vengeance or whatever. And by the end of the movie, he's realized that's definitely not the answer. Like just being vengeance isn't enough. And it's not even really helping anything.
I will say, I don't think you need the Riddler to be the Joker. You could have gone a different direction with him.
I think they distinguish him from, because he's not just crazy. I mean, he's an internet troll, essentially. He's an incel internet troll, basically.
Yeah, he's an edgelord.
But
But so is the Joker.
He's the lord of being the edge. And Christian. So have you guys watched the new the first couple episodes of the new Obi-Wan show?
No, I'd like to. I just saw the advertisement for it.
I watched them. I think it's one of those. I sort of feel the same way I feel about a lot of the Star Wars stuff, as it's fine, but I don't care. Like it's not bad. I don't think it's badly made. It's Ewan McGregor. He's a really good actor. But I don't understand why we need to, track every single second of time from the time that Anakin Skywalker was born till the time that Palpatine dies. Like there's other things going on in the universe that have nothing to do with this at different times. And yet we have to track all these people from literally cradle to the grave. And it's very frustrating to me.
So you're telling the guy from Train Spotting is a Jedi now?
Of course.
I mean, I like Ewan McGregor. I would much rather follow his own story than anything to do with Anakin Skywalker, honestly. But as much as people who read the books love Thrawn, I can't imagine why they haven't gone to that route.
Explain briefly who Thrawn is, because that name, you could have just made that name up right now and I would not have known the difference.
Well, after let's see, the exact timeline I think is after the last Death Star blows up, but maybe before the First Order, there's like one last what do you call them? The Fleet Admiral guys.
Oh, Grand Moff.
Yeah. And it's Thrawn. I'm not sure if I'm Thrawn, something like that. And he's this really brilliant guy who was chosen because of how good he is at this kind of thing. And the new power, what do they call it in the new ones? The first power, first
order.
Yeah, First Order is starting to come about, and he's like trying to capture somebody. I don't know. It's been a while since I read the books, but it's a big deal in the book universe. Like that's the one that you see most often talked about and put up on audiobook and all this. And it's interesting. He's an interesting guy, and it has nothing to do. I mean, he's in the kind of broader part of that timeline, but it doesn't really have anything to do with anybody else. It's kind of neat.
I think my problem with Star Wars is this. I feel like the movies don't actually make any sense, and all the movies and the shows are trying to make everything make sense when it actually doesn't make sense. And everybody's just being really polite about not pointing out that none of this makes any sense.
What part doesn't make sense?
Basically the whole thing. None of it. Literally none of it makes sense to me.
I would like some specific examples, please.
Okay, so first of all, we've all seen The Rise of Skywalker, right? Which yes. I think is probably the worst Star Wars movie. They somehow managed to go from a movie like The Last Jedi, which was sort of divisive and some fans really liked and some fans didn't like. Brandon, for example, really likes The Last Jedi. I don't like The Last Jedi. And went on to make a sixth movie that somehow managed to unite every Star Wars fan in their universal hatred of that god-awful movie. I mean, like I watched that movie and think to myself, somebody wrote this shit. somebody like had a typewriter or a computer or a pencil and they wrote this shit out and showed it to somebody else. And that person was like, spot on, perfect, don't change a thing. Like all of a sudden there's just a million Star Destroyers. The Emperor's just like, I got a million Star Destroyers. And it's like, how? What the fuck? How did that happen? That doesn't make any sense.
How did
No
you
sense.
both build that
Because-
and remain a secret? I
And then-
picture in that pitch meeting somebody who's like, that's tight. YouTube
Because the
reference.
movie has to happen. And then like, who is the guy who we were really supposed to be nervous about in the first one, who was like the big power guy?
Oh, yeah. The
Kylo
ugly guy.
Ren?
No,
The ugly guy. The
one that Kylo Ren kills in the second one.
Oh, Snoke.
Snoke,
Yeah.
right? And it's like, so he's incredible and super powerful, but then he just dies. But then it turns out he's actually a clone that is just being controlled by Palpatine. It's like, this is fucking stupid. This is really stupid writing. I mean, just all around. Now, I'm sure Brandon will tell you this, like that he likes in The Last Jedi how they sort of get rid of a lot of that, the sort of, everybody's destined for one thing or not destined for something, and kill Snoke off, and it's all about Kylo Ren. And I can sort of respect that, but you have to lose all respect when they go back in the next movie. And so it's like the second movie is saying what happened in the first movie doesn't matter, and the third movie is saying that what happened in the second movie doesn't matter. And so, I mean, as a trilogy, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. And the third one is the messiest mess of all messes.
The third one did not tie it all together well. It just kind of threw it all in a bowl.
Well,
So
what it
here-
shows you is J.J. Abrams is great at creating a mystery box. He's not very good at revealing what's inside of it. Which
makes you wonder if he knows what's inside of it sometimes.
Almost certainly doesn't.
What
like-
about the? I'm sorry. What about the storyline between Kylo and Rey at the end, where they like fall in love for I don't know why? And
Yeah,
then
they're just in love now. There's like,
And then,
oh,
and then-
turns out we were actually in love the whole time, even though that doesn't make any sense.
But it doesn't. The thing that kind of bothers me about that isn't. It's that it could have been so easily changed to make sense.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have explained it like just, the mind meld thing kind of gives them this like hyper advanced relationship where they've, it's like the equivalent of knowing each other for 10 years or something. It wouldn't even be a tough explanation. I just came up with one off the top of my head in 5 seconds. I mean, it wouldn't even be hard. They didn't.
Did you write for Star Wars?
But I mean, like you would expect some kind of, because at this point you have, the original trilogy came out, the prequel trilogy came out, of which there's a couple of good movies in all of those, in my mind. And so you would expect that the finale, this is the ending of the sort of the Skywalker line kind of thing, right? You would expect some kind of synchronicity or some kind of this, originally we should have done this, and it's some sort of a through line. But it's not. It's just like, but it turns out clones, I guess.
And
What the fuck does that mean?
Stuck with the clones.
even in the Clones TV show, the animated TV show, there's so many other interesting storylines that spark off there. They go to the planet where the dark side and light side originated. I mean, there's just so much other stuff you could do in that universe.
This just all goes to prove that Empire is still the best Star Wars movie.
Oh my God.
It
You gotta
absolutely
be
is true.
kidding me.
It's
The
absolutely
single
true.
most boring one of all of them.
I will fight you with a bat lift.
That would be more interesting than watching Empire. Even if I'm dying, it would be more interesting. Let's
I
spend
don't
10 hours on a frozen planet and then 10 hours in a swamp and then just kind of end.
I think
But
the one that I find the most
part of the
confusing is
story.
Return of the Jedi, because Return of the Jedi has the strangest pacing of any movie in the world. It's like we're going to spend like literally 45, 50 minutes on, rescuing Han Solo. And then we're going to fight on this forest moon. And then Lando Calrissian is going to blow up the Death Star. And it's just like, these things are happening in such weird order and in such strain. It's like, how did this come up? Especially after Empire, which, as Cale said, is the best Star Wars movie ever made.
Same.
Although, to be fair, in my opinion, that's kind of damning with somewhat faint praise, because I don't really like very many of the movies at all. I don't know. Did you guys see Solo, the Solo prequel movie?
I didn't.
I think you will literally forget that movie as it is happening. It is the most utterly forgettable movie. You will get to the end of the movie and forget what movie you were in. You're like, wait a minute, is this a Star Wars thing?
The first movie is the best one. The first one in our universe. A New Hope is the best one. The Clone Wars cartoon comes in second. I liked the one where everybody's doomed to die, getting the plans. Rogue One.
Rogue One's one of those movies where there is a lot in there that I like, but ultimately I don't like the movie. I feel like you feel like there's so many MacGuffins they have to go after throughout the movie. They're always rushing to one thing or the next thing. And you don't get a chance to actually really interact with the interesting characters you met. By the way, if you didn't see, there's a trailer for the Andor television show, because once again, if there's one square inch of continuity space, Star Wars will make a show about it. Yeah, so ultimately, I think for me it would be Empire, and then A New Hope, probably The Force Awakens after that. I like The Force Awakens a lot. I really like that movie a lot. And then probably Revenge of the Sith after that. And then, God, man, I feel like we could do a whole episode talking about what's worse, Attack of the Clones or The Rise of Skywalker, because those are both just really, really bad movies. I mean, what's worse, like Anakin Skywalker talking about sand, or the Emperor just revealing a jillion Star Destroyers just cause? Or one of them, the fake out of them killing Chewbacca for like, where they fake out that they killed Chewbacca for literally like 15 seconds, and then they're like, oh, that wasn't his ship. And it's like, well, then why the fuck even bother then? Your fake out lasted for not even enough time for me to realize it was there. It's like,
I know it's a boring question, but how did he pay for all those starships? Like, where did he get the money for that?
There's no answers. There's no answers to any of these questions.
I assume the Empire oppressed all the galaxies they ruled over and took all their valuables. I mean, they're surely dressed up like Nazis.
But I mean, who built them? I mean, forget the paying. Like, who literally, like, there needs to be like, screws in sheet metal, and like they need to put these things together.
Somebody painted it gunmetal gray,
right? Like, who did the weather sealing? It's just like,
I'd rather watch them paint it than watch Empire.
Well, that's obviously wrong. Yeah, so I don't know. I have a question. Is Star Wars more good or more not good? Like, if you take everything that's in canon stuff, and I would leave the books out, because I think the books are largely separate, but like movies, television shows, is Star Wars good or is Star Wars not good?
The television shows carry a giant part of that burden, because the Star Wars Clone Wars cartoon is good. I liked The Mandalorian, so those two things do carry a big amount of weight there. But
yeah,
I haven't watched any of them. I think that it's enjoyable. Like, if I was to compare it to Star Trek, and I'm being 100% honest, I think Star Trek is more interesting to watch because of the diplomacy that goes on, instead of just giant space battles and laser sword fights and force pushing things, and making Daniel Craig release your restraints and drop his gun. But
well, it would surprise no one to realize that I like Star Trek a lot more than Star Wars.
but Star Wars is fun. It's just fun.
It's fun sometimes.
I still will go to YouTube and watch the clip of animated Palpatine fighting Darth Maul and his brother. That's an excellent fight. There's a part where he force pushes one away and he just puts his lightsabers away to throw him against the wall. And the other guy's still trying to hack at him. He just keeps moving out of the way. And when it's finally time to go and fight that guy again, he like turns him on just in time to block it like it's nothing. It's such a well done fight.
So you haven't seen Solo, a Star Wars story?
No.
God, that movie is so forgettable. In the end of that movie, you realize they reintroduce Darth Maul, and it's such a they did that. And like at the end, you're just like, oh, sure.
That's a weird thing because Darth Maul has the closest thing to a character arc and really can be interesting if they gave it half a shot.
Oh, I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying it's not a commentary on the character; it's a commentary on the writing. And so he's talking to Dany from Game of Thrones. Her name escapes me at the moment. Anyway, like she like calls up this secret person who's been like pulling the strings from the background, and it's like it's Darth Maul, and then he like lights up his lightsaber. He's just talking to somebody on the thing. It's like, why would he light up his lightsaber? He's just sitting there. He's just like sitting there on the. It'd be like if I was on the phone and I was just like, bro, why would you do that? I have a lightsaber. It's like, I work for you. I know you have a lightsaber. It's clear.
It's like I'm on the phone. I can't see you.
Oh, that movie. I remember almost nothing about it. I literally remember the Darth Maul cameo at the end, and that's about it.
Okay. A slightly different topic. Have either of you seen the new first half of Stranger Things?
Okay, I was debating whether to bring this up. No, I haven't. And to be honest, I think I am subconsciously avoiding it. I thought the first season of Stranger Things, I think, is really good. The second season is good with a question mark, and the third season is kind of a mess. So like the
third season is definitely a mess. It was hard to follow. The fourth season is an entire cut above. It's so much better than the third season was.
Well, I'm going to get to it. I've just been, it's like one of those things when like you can tell a show you've been watching is starting to go downhill and they come out with a new season and you're like, oh, I don't want to watch this. I just want to remember when it was good. So I'll get to it.
I'll be interested to see what you think. Because I thought the same thing. Like I had trouble sorting the storyline for the third season in my brain. Like the recap that they did was more succinct than the entire series was, and they probably should have trimmed out a bunch.
The one guy's like in a Russian workers camp or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But the fourth season, and it's only the first half. The second half comes out in the beginning of July.
So how many episodes did they release?
I think it was 6.
Okay.
And they're fairly long too.
Oh yeah. Isn't it like one of the episodes like several hours long?
Yeah, the last one is like at least, was it like an hour and 40 or something?
Oh, no, I think that's the end. So they talked about I'm going to bring this up. They talked about the second half of season 4, and I think some of those episodes are like really long.
Well, I wasn't aware there was a second half, and Andrew and I weren't aware either way. And then we watched that last one, and we're like, I don't see how they're going to wrap this up, and even though it's a long episode, I don't see how they're going to wrap this up in that time. And it turns out they're not. But this one feels more like they had focus. They had better graphics. Like the horror scenes are like on par with movies at this point.
Yeah, it's really what they can do with television now is kind of incredible. Hey, I mean, even you just look at the Obi-Wan show, like whether or not you like the show or not, it's clearly they had a budget. Okay, so here's the thing. So episode 8 is an hour and 25 minutes. Episode 9 is going to be 2.5 hours long.
That's a movie.
Right. I think, is there 10? Yeah, I think there's going to be 9 episodes total. I hate these stupid things. Okay, yeah. So in 1 through 6, they're all around an hour. It looks like they dumped 7 episodes for the first part. And then the second part is just 2 episodes, but episode 8 is an hour and 25 minutes. Episode 9 is 2 hours and 30 minutes. So, I mean, the last 2 episodes come out is going to cover, basically 4 hours.
Should be good. There's a little bit of confusion on the timeline that I hope they address, like in the first episode and the second part. But other than that, I thought it was much more focused, much clearer.
So did you watch all 7 episodes then?
Yeah.
Okay. Cale, have you started watching Stranger Things yet?
I saw the first couple seasons.
But not the new one?
No, I lost it.
Okay. Yeah, I sort of agree with him on season 3. Really, season 3 was a mess. It was just a mess.
There was good parts, but it did not focus at all.
One of these days we will definitely be doing a Star Trek episode. Brandon, you have not watched the new Star Trek stuff really at all, right?
No, I think Voyager was probably the last thing I saw.
I really would recommend, if you have to watch it on Paramount Plus, but if you do the latest episode, and this is going to get released later on, so I'm going to look up to see what the episode was actually called. But the last episode I watched of Strange New Worlds was very, very good. So Strange New Worlds has gone back to being kind of an episodic Star Trek. And let's look at the guide. Let's see here. It was Memento Mori. And they talk about a species that Kirk fought on the original series called the Gorn. And they kind of talk about that a lot. It was a real solid episode. I don't know. I my favorite thing about Star Trek was always the bottle episodes, just the little one-off episodes that are just great. And Memento Mori was a very good one. And it's got Anson Mount playing Christopher Pike, who, reaching back to something earlier, was the one that played Black Bolt in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, which I think everybody was kind of surprised to see him show up there, since the Inhumans show was just such a huge bomb.
Well, I watched Doctor Strange with some friends from Oskaloosa, a friend of mine and his 2 daughters. And that was the only one they didn't know. They didn't know who Black Bolt was.
Did you guys watch by the way, his name is Blackagar Boltagon, which is just, that's crazy. There's a character named Blackagar Boltagon. That's his name. That's his real name. I mean, how do you, anyway, it's fine. So did you guys not watch the Inhumans TV show?
I didn't.
So I think Disney Plus has sort of hidden it. It's on the service, but it's not listed right next to all the other Marvel stuff, because it was awful. It was an awful, horrible show.
Is American MacGuffin, is she like a real character, or is...
America Chavez? Yeah, Miss America. In fact, she has also been a big part of the Young Avengers. So we get sort of another person who is a big deal in the Young Avengers.
Why does every portal turn into a star? Is that just a part of her power, or is there a thing?
Yeah, it's part of her. That's the way it always has been. And I thought it was kind of cool that she's the only one of her. And I think it's kind of interesting. There would be one person where there's no multiverse equivalent of.
It's her and Jet Li.
By the way, have you guys watched Everything Everywhere All at Once?
No.
You need to watch Everything Everywhere All at Once. It is It is the multiverse movie we deserve. It is Michelle Yeoh, and it is a absolute banana pants movie. I cannot over exaggerate how bananas that movie is. And you have to sort of be on its level because it is sort of intellectual, but it is also just kind of enjoying being crazy. It's a crazy movie. It is an absolutely crazy movie. And if you're sort of on the level of it and kind of ready for it, it will be an absolute blast. I almost
Brief
wonder.
review. This tastes a lot. This has a lot of like cinnamon roll taste to it.
Fair enough. Probably a high rye, I would bet.
It's peppery, yeah.
I think maybe my negative feelings towards Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is colored a little bit because I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once before. And you sort of see this movie that is just like, I can't even describe it. You can't describe that movie because it is just so off the wall, crazy. And then I watched Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness, and I was kind of like, this isn't that bananas. It's not that crazy. It's like a little crazy, but it's not, Michelle Yeoh as a rock crazy.
Yeah. Well, there's a part, there's a Susanna Clark movie. She did movie. It's a book. She's an author who wrote the most famous one for her was Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, which ended up becoming a TV show. And the book is just massive. I mean, it's huge. But she also wrote a book called Piranesi. And in that one, the main character inhabits this alternate universe, which is just this endless series of rooms in halls with like statues and stuff and an ocean running through it. So some parts are flooded out and some aren't. And I thought, man, that part in that one world really seems like they stole that from Piranesi.
What do they say? Best form, plagiarism is the best form of flattery or whatever. Yeah. But go see Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's really, really good. It's like I said, it's just bananas. It's just a bananas movie. Like I was watching that movie, and you will never look at a bagel the same way. I will tell you that. You will never look at a bagel the same way after watching that movie, because you will always have one thing in the back of your head, and that's a pretty good tagline for a. It's just because a person sort of mentions a phrase and then they take you to this just bizarre conclusion. And it's really great. I love it. One of the things I had on my list, this is going to be real brief. My wife and I went to Kentucky a couple weeks ago, longer than a couple weeks ago when you see this. And I just want to say I love eating in Kentucky. I love eating in the South in general. I feel like as politics gets more stressful, there's some people in the South and people that are like us that would be more in the North. Kind of, we become further and further apart, but we should all get together on eating really good food because I love eating down there. I ate a chicken at the American, which is the best chicken in the world. And don't listen to what Cale says because he's wrong. And ate hot brown at the Brown Hotel and ate the breakfast hot brown at Wild Eggs. It's fantastic. So Brent, you've
people to
go ahead. Sorry, Cale.
I said food brings people together.
Absolutely. So Brent, you were traveling a little bit over the past couple months, weren't you?
No, Andrea was.
Oh, okay. I don't know what's the best food you guys had on trips. Like, is there like specific meals that you kind of remember on various trips where you're like, oh, I wish I could have that again?
Yeah. One of the best cheeseburgers I had was in Lima, Peru, at a place called Benbo's. It's a really good cheeseburger. Like, imagine like if Wendy's like notched it up, or I mean, it probably compares to Bebop's, which you'd have to be Midwestern to know that is.
By the way, if you get to the Midwest, eat at Bebop's. Bebop's is fantastic.
Is Bebop's comparable to In-N-Out?
Yeah.
They're both really good. So Vanessa and I were in LA last year and we went to In-N-Out, and like, I love to be the contrarian. I love to say it's not as good as people say it is. In-N-Out's pretty good. It is very, very good burgers. The hype exists for a reason when it comes to In-N-Out.
Let's see. There's a hotel I ate at in Lima that had this. I don't remember the dish itself, but the condiment that came with it was a hot sauce, but it was a sauce. Not like when we think of sauce, we think of something kind of more runny, like a barbecue sauce or chili, oil or something like that. This was like a sour cream with heat in it. That was really good.
Interesting.
Let's see. I had a really good steak in Buenos Aires in this little hole in the wall. Like literally, it was just a dugout into a hole that was big enough to have it wasn't much bigger than my living room. It had the grills and like 3 tables, and they had this steak the size of the entire platter. That was pretty good.
When we were in LA, we ate at a place called Egg Tuck, which is, there's S tier. We talk about things being S tier. Egg Tuck is S tier. It is an S tier breakfast sandwich. It is not just better than all the other breakfast sandwiches, it is significantly better than all the other breakfast sandwiches. And it is, you stop. It's like you get halfway through the sandwich and you just stop and just like realize this is the best breakfast sandwich I'm ever going to eat. And you have to come
back in, what was it, 2002, you and I had a filet mignon in Los Angeles in
probably Marina Del Rey Hotel.
Yeah. That was pretty good.
I wanted to go there when Vanessa and I were back, but I just didn't get a chance to. Cale, have you been on the road anytime recently? Or in the last, 25 years, where you had a meal that really was memorable?
The best surprise meal I ever had while I was out and about was in Florida, and I went to this place, and I'm probably going to murder the name because I can't remember what the hell it was called. It was like Palamos or Palermo's or something like that. It was a seafood place, family-run seafood place, and I think they had like 4 or 5 of them, or maybe something like that around the area. But he told, we were the first ones into the restaurant. Like, we went there and they weren't even like open. But we went there for an early lunch. I think it was probably around 11, and they didn't really open until 12. But me, I was flying by the seat of my pants that whole trip. And if you guys ever ask Val about it, she'll tell you how much she hated it, because I was like constantly driving everywhere. And anyway, we went to this restaurant, and we're sitting there. The maitre d', not even a waiter, a maitre d', and he had been working there at the restaurant for like 40 years. And that's all he ever did. And he never wanted to move up or anything. That's what he liked doing. And so he's telling us about the menu, and he says, these are the specials. And I said, oh, well, the special sounds really good. And he's like, okay. And so he brings us out our food, and he's like, how is everything? And at this point, we're like still the only people in the restaurant. And he's like, how is it? And I was like, this is amazing. And I mean, this is I think the best fish I've ever had. And he points out the window down the pier. There's a huge pier, and he's like, you see that fishing boat right there? And I was like, yeah. And he was that came off of that this morning. So it was fresh.
That brings up two more for me. By the end of this week, we will be in Cape May, New Jersey. And there I had mussels for the first time. That was pretty good. And then some of the best empanadas I had were at my sister's house, because she lives close to the ocean too. And they had like fresh seafood empanadas made at home in a little Dutch oven in their backyard. Man, it was good.
So I love seafood a lot, but I don't eat it very often anymore. And we do, by the way, we do have a restaurant here in Des Moines called Splash, which has very, very good seafood. But the problem is there's a lot of seafood that, my favorite is scallops. Scallops are great, but it's like they're either good or terrible. Like there's such kind of a small window to cook scallops to just the right level.
You get time.
Yeah, if you don't cook them enough, they taste raw, and if you cook them just a little bit too much, they're just rubber. So anytime I have good scallops, I am very, very happy. But I don't order them because oftentimes you don't get good scallops.
Are you guys sushi fans?
Oh, yeah.
I've begun to be.
Yeah, sushi. Well, I had tried it before, but Andrea really introduced me to sushi, and I've become a big fan of sushi. I can do that.
Okay, what is your sushi experience?
Well, it's all local. As far as quality goes, um, there was one out there in Jordan Creek that was pretty good. I can't remember the name of it. I want to say Shogun or something like that, but I might be wrong.
Down here, I would recommend wasabi.
Yeah,
I think wasabi's way too expensive because wasabi can be really expensive, but
there's Wasabi Waki and Wasabi Johnson. Both are pretty good.
Well, there's also wasabi chi and wasabi tao, and one of those is downtown and one of those is on the north side. I can't remember which one's which. Go ahead, Cale. Sorry.
So Waterfront has good sushi. Sorry,
There's a place downtown called
hogging the
Blue.
spotlight.
Called the what?
Called Blue. It's not too far. Oh God, it's next to the Spaghetti Works, I think.
If I was recommend, I don't know if that place is still in business. When was the last time you went there?
Spaghetti Works, I would go to Spaghetti Works.
I don't know about Spaghetti Works itself. I just the sushi restaurant was, I think, next to it. And last I saw,
I think that because that restaurant has turned over like 3 times in the last 5 or 6 years. So I don't know if that place is still open or not. If I was going downtown Des Moines for seafood, I would go Splash, but be ready to pay because it's expensive.
Actually, since we're talking about downtown, let's promote East Village a little bit here for people who don't really know the area. Maybe
Olympic
they don't know
Flame.
about all the opportunities. Like, there's a really good Lebanese restaurant down there. It's mostly vegetarian, but it's really good.
Open Sesame over there is really good.
Olympic Flame, the Greek restaurant's pretty good in East Village.
There's a really nice tiki bar down there called Bellhop, which I would highly recommend for tiki cocktails. Although I want to say in advance, given the lifespan of restaurants in downtown, all of these could be closed by the time you get this.
Bubba,
sometimes those things go past.
Not as seafood, but Bubba's pretty good.
I've been to Bubba like 3 times in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Get the fried chicken. Do yourself a favor. Like
Honestly, as an appetizer, try the deviled eggs.
Deviled eggs are so good. I don't think there's an upper limit on how many deviled eggs I can eat.
Especially not the Bubba ones. They've got like an actual strip of bacon on them. And it's just like that big. It's
Cale, you talk.
Okay, a little further west there, we mentioned the Spaghetti Works. That's really good. Hessen House, really great German-themed restaurant. Great beers, good food. The curry's a little sweet, so I avoid the curry.
Well, same place very near there is the Royal Mile, which is like the best British pub food you'll get. I'm partial to the bangers and mash, but the shepherd's pie is very good, and the fish and chips are very good. The Guinness stew is very good. They also have like the best Scotch selection in Iowa.
I would say if you're in Ames and want some British food, the Mucky Duck is really good. And an Irish place, Dublin Bay in Ames, is also very good. Some of the best onion rings I've ever had, and one of the better what's the Reuben sandwich. My wife's shouting all the right answers from those.
I feel like we are people that could talk about food a lot.
I've kind of gone on this quest to find the best Reuben sandwich, and so far Dublin Bay is either number 1 or tied for number 1.
Fair enough. There's a place in Seattle, because I was kind of on the same kick with fish and chips for a while. And there was this place in Seattle that had fish and chips. They were not served like traditional fish and chips, but they were absolutely out of this world. And it was just down there by the shore. And I cannot remember, it was, by the fish market. And it was just out of this world good fish and chips.
Oh, I mentioned mucky duck, but if you ever want to try pork vindaloo, that's the place to do it.
Do they have blood sausage on there?
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, I love blood sausage.
And
Morcia.
Scotch eggs.
Yeah, Scotch eggs are like not good for you. Like that's just like I feel like Scotch eggs is like the least healthy thing you could possibly imagine ordering. But they are very tasty.
Yeah.
There was this
Cale's not having a great day internet wise today.
We keep getting this still life with opinion.
Or a tiny portion of an opinion. Here's 1/10 of an opinion with Cale. I think there was one other thing I kind of wanted to mention before we left. It's kind of a theme that I've been noticing. And I figured get your thought, hopefully Cale's thoughts too, maybe given his internet. And that is accountability. The reason that I've been thinking about it is there's been a lot of things on that you see where Biden has been kind of backing down on a lot of things. He's been, maybe I'll do student loan debt relief. Maybe I won't. When the gun control thing came up, he basically refused to take up a position, which is, horrifying. And
is it wrong to say that I'm not surprised by any of that? At no point did I think he would cancel student loan debt.
I'm not surprised by it either. And what it brings to mind is the idea that people can just say things, and that's just considered their argument. It can be ludicrous. It can be nothing. I mean, my dad was down last weekend and we were talking about some of the gun control stuff and, the Heller opinion. And you've got Justice Scalia, the one who wrote that opinion, basically just ignoring the facts on a million different things. But he's a Supreme Court justice, so he can just do that. And he doesn't have to pay attention to the facts. And so there's no accountability. It's people that can just say something and that is allowed to just stand, and people sort of consider it, well, that's their opinion. And it's like, but it's wrong. It's not their opinion.
And it's a different phrase when I say, well, that's just Mike's opinion. Okay, but Mike doesn't get to control what like half the population of the country does based on his opinion.
Unfortunately.
It means more when you're talking about some Lulu in the Supreme Court just taking leave of his senses altogether. I mean, that opinion matters.
But what I've seen, what I've been seeing over the last week or so is you have a lot of sort of the more establishment Democrats just saying, blaming a bunch of things on progressives, and that's their argument. And it's preposterous what they're saying. The things that, I mean, there's literally people that are blaming, the fact that Roe versus Wade isn't codified on Bernie Sanders.
Yeah. Like, you're going to blame the people who have the least amount of power and the least ability to affect meaningful change. That makes sense.
So I guess the main thing I wanted to be able to take, because I we try to, impart advice on people to some degree. When you're looking at people having a discussion, make sure you're looking at things in such a way where you're saying, okay, this person has a real argument, this person has a fake argument, and you have to take a side. Because I feel like in this country, there's this tremendous tendency towards like, well, some people say this, some people say this, I'll be in the middle. And it's like, sometimes the middle is not a very good place to be. As Mr. Miyagi would say, squash, just like grape, when you're in the middle. And you need to take a side. You absolutely need to take a side. And
that doesn't mean you have to do it immediately. Take your time, study the issue, find out what's real and what isn't.
Oh, no, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. But I'm just saying, once you've sort of gotten what, you feel to be all the facts, don't be afraid to say, no, that's wrong. That's bullshit. And I won't stand for you pretending, because I mean, this is one of those things that in my mind goes back to the early Bush administration, where it isn't a matter of coming up with the right argument or the wrong argument. It's trying to come up with any argument and then saying that, well, could go either way. And that's how we got into Iraq.
Yeah, this both sides thing. I mean, don't get me wrong. Establishment in power Democrats are functionally useless.
Absolutely.
And are mostly lying to you. But that does not mean that the right and the left horseshoe back around and are nearly the same thing. That's ridiculous. Provably ridiculous.
Well, and it's complicated. I mean, again, one of the things you'll see is that most of the American people are angry about, down in the sort of the depths of their gut are angry about the same things. They're angry about corruption. They're angry about unfair people being treated unfairly. But then they just get sort of tricked into, taking one political side or not taking a political side, to thinking, well, there's arguments on both sides, so I guess I'll just sit in the middle somewhere. And it's like, no, it's not good. Cale, while you're on.
Is he on?
I think he's not on. Maybe he's on now. We'll try to have Cale with a better connection next week. Cale, are you there? Cale joining us on the scene.
Yes.
There we go. Quick, before you cut out.
Do you have any final thoughts, Cale, while you're still there? Maybe he's had some he has had some internet troubles today.
Fuck Verizon right in their butthole.
As one of their customers, I would concur. All right, Cale, do you have any final thoughts for the evening?
I liked the last path that you guys were on that I didn't get a chance to get involved in.
That sucks.
We will be talking to Cale more next week. Get his stuff all situated. Brand, do you have any final thoughts on any of the stuff we talked about?
No, I mean, this is the kind of the point of a chit chat show, is just kind of lightly touch on a bunch of different stuff. If you want some entertainment and much more in-depth ideas, I would check out FD Signifier and ContraPoint's newest videos. It's worth, they're both lengthy, but it's worth your time to go through them both.
All right, fair enough. I don't have any final thoughts. I don't know if I had any first thoughts. I just kind of talked. But I want to thank everybody for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe, and have a good drink. Have a good day.
Chit chat, a-hole.